This is really funny. We've been speaking this week, and we're going to speak again, in fact, about how the world is increasingly ignoring Donald Trump. Media outlets are focused on the Biden transition. World leaders are welcoming Joe Biden as president-elect, despite Donald Trump not having conceded the election. This is just amazing. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson, who I'm not a fan of politically, to be very clear. Boris Johnson yesterday started referring to Donald Trump as the previous president, even though Donald Trump still does have a couple months left in his presidency, and also said it was refreshing to speak to President-elect Joe Biden, which is just perfect and hilarious. And if you adjust for British humor and British temperament, talking about it being refreshing to speak to Joe Biden, referring to Trump as the previous president, it's pretty spicy stuff. Let's take a look. And also really funny that the statement from Boris Johnson was in response to a question from Labour MP Angela Eagle. And in her question to Boris Johnson, Angela Eagle couches Trump's refusal to concede as embarrassing and dangerous to American democracy. Both accurate, but that's the premise. And nobody even thinks to argue with the premise because, of course, it's accurate. Take a look at this.
The Prime Minister spoke for many of us when he took a call yesterday to congratulate President-elect Biden and Vice President-elect Harris on their emphatic win in the US presidential election. So does the Prime Minister now have any advice for his erstwhile best friend, President Trump, whose continuing refusal to accept the result is both embarrassing for him and dangerous for American democracy?
Prime Minister.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I had and have a good relationship with the previous president. I do not resile from that. It is the duty of all British Prime Ministers to have a good relationship with the White House. But I'm delighted to find the many areas in which the incoming Biden-Harris administration is able to make common cause with us.
It's just hilarious how Donald Trump hasn't even conceded. But in either case, Trump does have the presidency for 2 more months. And the British Prime Minister is referring to Trump as the previous president and calling his conversation with the president-elect, who Trump still has not acknowledged, as refreshing. Now, he may not have meant much by it, but it's poetic in that much of the world already is thinking of Trump as the previous president. Trump is doing no presidential things. Trump has not done any actual presidential work for months now. He's been campaigning for months. Now he's sulking in his office, calling allies and friends and seeing, can anybody give me any encouraging or good news? And we'll be reporting on that a little bit later based on Philip Rucker's great reporting. But world leaders are just moving on. And I was actually thinking that all of these discussions about could Donald Trump execute a coup? How might Donald Trump execute a coup? All of that, which we've been talking about. I still maintain my position that the answer is a simple no. The latest claims, including from Peter Alexander from NBC, are that even Trump knows that he has no shot at this coup. But that one of the things that will make it even tougher to steal the White House if Trump tried is that the world is already looking at Joe Biden as if he's president. But ultimately, Trump failing to steal the White House will still have a big impact because Trump could still delegitimize Biden in the minds of the Al-Qaeda types, as we call them, all over the country, such that they remain angry throughout Biden's presidency. And obviously that carries with it significant risk. I don't think Trump has a master plan. I don't think Trump is some kind of evil genius where he's trying to radicalize his supporters to never acknowledge Biden as the rightful president and maybe even do violence or whatever. I just think Trump doesn't want to lose. But Trump continuing to do this, even if he doesn't believe that there's a shot at overturning the election, which the latest reporting is he doesn't really believe it, there could be a significant holdover impact beyond January 20th. And as I referred to earlier, Trump has already convinced 86% of his voters that Joe Biden did not legitimately win. That is stunning. And so Trump's plan simply is an ego narcissism plan. It's the same playbook he's used his entire life, never mind his entire presidency. Blame other people, deny that you failed, never apologize, never admit defeat, divide people, get people mad and scared and angry, exaggerate everything. That's his plan. But it can have an impact on his followers, and world leaders dealing with Biden as president-elect is a good thing to push back against that, although it's not like Trump supporters are really willing to see reason right now. And unfortunately, I mean, tragically for the country, many of them are never going to see reason, which is why it's important that Joe Biden do everything he can to just move ahead, appoint adults to positions of power. And that's exactly what Joe Biden announced last night with his chief of staff. And I want to talk about that next. I want to let you know that our sponsor, Vincero Watches, is having a massive holiday sale on all of their products right now, and you can take advantage of it by going to davidpakman.com/watch. A brand new high quality wristwatch really is the perfect way to add something fresh to your style, whether it's for you or a gift for someone else. Vincero is a brand that has a serious dedication to the craft of watchmaking, which is really evident when you look closely at their watches. I wear Vincero watches myself. Lately, I've been wearing one from their Icon Automatic collection. It's the mesh matte black watch, and I love the sleek minimalist design. Their watches are actually sold at a fair price. Their mission has always been to make a wristwatch from high-end materials, but one that everyday people can afford. And that's why they have over 25,000 five-star reviews, because you won't find a better made watch for this great of a price anywhere else. You can get big holiday discounts on all of their products right now and free shipping when you go to davidpakman.com/watch. I've put the link right underneath this video.